Most people spend their entire lives fighting with their brains, constantly thinking thoughts. But have you ever noticed that life feels smaller every year, even when nothing bad happens? Or if something good happens, your brain automatically turns it into something bad? It's not complaining or being negative. It's your perception filter tightening. But if you change one thing, you can feel that filter loosen. In this video, we're going to ask 6 questions that change you from being a fighter to being the witness. And once that change happens, your stress stops being your reality. Try this right now. Say, I feel behind. Now say, I notice the feeling of feeling behind arising. That tiny gap you just created is the most important skill you will ever learn because it's the only doorway out of your mind, out of fighting. Right now, your brain is deleting 95% of reality, and you didn't agree to it. Let's answer the first question. And remember, with each question, it's a connected map. So stick around if you want to go from life feels small to something in me is bigger than my thoughts. So in a minute, I'll give you a 10-second test. And if it works, you'll feel that difference between a thought and the thing that notices thought. While you're watching, notice when your chest tightens or your jaw clenches. That is your perception filter turning on. Question number 1. Perception is filtered. So who filters? Most people will say the brain. True, but incomplete. Your brain doesn't just filter information, it also filters meaning. It decides what matters, what doesn't, what's threat, what's safe. That filter isn't just your biology, it's your identity. Because identity is what tells the brain what to keep and what to let go of. And this matters because it decides what you even notice in your own life. You know, 2 people walk into the same room, one notices criticism, the other notices opportunity. What is that about? Same reality, different filter. So if identity is doing the filter, what is identity made of? And that leads us to the second question. If identity is built from memory, who remembers? Identity is basically a story stitched from your past, so a combination of memory and emotion. But notice the weird thing. A memory appears inside your mind like a video clip. So who's the one watching the clip? If you catch what I'm about to say next, you'll never be able to relate to anxiety in the same way again, because there's a trap that most people fall for. But we can resolve it, because once you see identity as a story, the next question becomes undeniable. So if identity is selecting what you notice, is it also selecting what becomes real for you? And that brings us to question 3. If possibilities are infinite, who chooses the one that we focus on? Let's make this simple in that your day has many possible versions. You could speak up, you could stay quiet, you could text them or avoid it. You could go for a walk or a scroll. So what collapses into the version that you actually live? Your nervous system chooses what's familiar, and what feels familiar is usually identity. So the collapse isn't just particles obeying your thoughts. It's your body and this field selecting a storyline. This is why knowing better doesn't always change anything, because your body still chooses the familiar. So then the big question becomes, if identity is this powerful, what can change identity? And that moves us on to question 4. If love changes biology, what else can change? Love here isn't romance. It's felt connection. It's unconditional acceptance. And when you feel deeply accepted, your system does something amazing. It stops filtering for threat and it widens. So in threat, we narrow for attention, we defend identity, and we constantly repeat the past. But in love, attention expands, identity loosens, new choices appear. There's the idea of falling in love, you let go. So love isn't just a feeling, it's a permission slip for your reality, your life to get bigger. So now we're ready for the actual core, because if love can loosen identity, it means that identity isn't the deepest you. So question 5, if you're not your thoughts, who's noticing them? And here's the simplest logic in the world. If you can observe something, you inherently are not that thing. If you can notice a thought, you are not the thought. If you can notice an emotion, you are not the emotion. So who is noticing? Not another thought, not another story. It's awareness, the witness, the observer. Call it consciousness, the cosmos. It doesn't matter. Try this right now. Close your mouth, soften your face, and now wait for your next thought like you're watching or waiting for a subtitle to appear. Then ask, what's my next thought? The moment a thought appears, notice this. Something within you knew it appeared. That something isn't a sentence, it's not a memory, and it's not a personality. It's the container holding it all. If you felt that for even half a second, then you found the part of you that's unchanged, that's infinite. And here's why that matters. Have you ever noticed that when a thought passes, you don't feel any less you? Or say an emotion changes, you don't become more you. So what stays the same while everything inside you changes? Now, let me show you the most simplest example. When you're asleep, you can dream like you're walking in London, New York. You see the streets, smell a croissant or a coffee, and inside that dream, you're also there watching it happen. But when you wake up, you realize something shocking. London, New York was never out there. The streets were made of mind. The observer was also made of mind. So it brings us to the real question. If both the dream world and the dream observer appear inside us, what is the space in which they appear? We know the thinker, the prefrontal cortex, is off. That's what people mean by the observer, the witness. Not a thought, not a memory. Those are changing, temporary, fleeting. But the awareness that knows experience is happening, unchanging, permanent, infinite. And now the question becomes less sci-fi and more obvious, because if awareness can hold a dream, it can hold life. So if everything is a simulation, who's dreaming it? And there's a price to that. For awareness to experience life as someone, as you, awareness itself has to feel limited. It forgets the whole and it becomes the point, a name, a story, a set of fears, patterns, that tightness you feel sometimes, lonely, stuck behind, isn't proof that you're broken. It's the cost of being a wave that forgot that it's ocean. Explore it with me this way. Your reality is a constructed experience, not fake, constructed. You never experience the world raw. You experience sensory data filtered by identity, stitched into meaning, presented to awareness as my life. So who's dreaming it? Number one, the personal, and this is the most practical. Your mind dreams your world in the sense that your memories, beliefs, and survival patterns shape what reality feels like. A dream is built from what you know and store. The second layer is the biological, so this is survival. So your nervous system runs a threat simulation, predicting danger, projecting outcomes, rehearsing pain. That's why anxiety feels like reality, even when nothing is happening. The third and final layer, the deeper dream, the spiritual. If awareness is the container of all experience, then the deepest dreamer isn't your personality. It's consciousness itself. The I that exists before the story of me. So the question isn't, is reality fake? It's, am I trapped inside the dream? Or am I the one aware of the dream? But you have to remember one thing. Perception is filtered by identity, and identity is built from memory, observed by awareness. Infinite possibilities collapse towards the familiar, and love loosens the familiar. And once you notice your thoughts, you discover or remember the observer, the witness. And from there, the dream question becomes simple. You're not a character in the dream. You're what knows the dream is happening. If you found that 10-second experiment or gap today, stay there. Use your life to map your own filters. So stay curious, playful, and I will see you in the next one.